What's good, everyone? It's Adrian from Peng Pirates TCG here, and I'm coming at you with another video. This time, we're going to be looking at the new leaks for the Big Mom structure deck coming out. I'm pretty sure this is coming out like way in the future. This is kind of along with set 3, but it's always fun to look at these decks and kind of look at the future of what the game holds for us. So let's get right into it. I'm not going to go over the vanilla cards that were leaked because obviously they're just vanillas. They're going to be as good as the stat line is for that amount of Dawn cost. It doesn't look like they even have like a 5-drop 7k, which is the most common kind of stat line that we've seen. But yeah, let's get right into the effects, starting off with Big Mom. So as you could see, Big Mom's going to be kind of like every other primary color leader that we have. She's going to have that stat line of 5k, 5 life, but her effect is actually really cool. So when she has 2 Dawn under her and you attack with her, you can add the top or bottom card from your life area to your hand, and then if your life is at 2 or less, you may place 1 card from your hand at the top of your life area. So this is awesome because it basically means like you could choose to add life and add cards to your hand like in the early game, but like around 3 life is when you could start like manipulating what cards are in your trigger and what cards aren't. So this is really cool because a lot of the yellow cards have really good trigger effects, and you're gonna see that there are some like really busted ways to kind of heal and burn your opponent if you wanted to, draw cards. It's just an insane effect, honestly, and messing around with your triggers is something that we kind of haven't seen before. I don't think there's any card in the game right now that does this, so the fact that she has this effect is just super cool. But always remember too, triggers only activate when you take damage to life, so it's not like your triggers are going to activate when you're swinging and attacking. And also this is an optional effect, right? So when attacking effects, they will usually go off if they can, but this says you may add, so that means that you don't have to activate this effect when she has 2 Dawn under her. So just a really cool effect, and you're going to see that, you know, like all of the other yellow cards have some pretty cool trigger effects that you could kind of combo off with this. So starting off with our characters, we have 2-drop Charlotte Pudding. She's a 2-drop 3k with 2k counter, so we're going to get useful counters in this deck, which is awesome. And her effect is really interesting. It's just on play, look at the top life from either your opponent or your own life area, and then place it back on the top or put it to the bottom of the life area. And this is so cool. We've never seen anything like this. You know, using it on your life area means that you could look at the top card of the life, you know, see if it's a useful trigger or not. If it's not, you could put it to the bottom, and then you kind of know, you know that card is on the bottom, and you could kind of plan your hits around it, right? So if you look at the top and it's like a really good trigger that you want to get off, maybe it's like a Zeus or like a Sparrow that came out, that's coming out in this set, you don't feel as bad taking a hit, and you might even want to take a hit, right? And get stuff on board. There's a lot of cards that are just like trigger play this card. So this is a really cool effect. And also what's also extremely interesting is you could use it on your opponent, and that could lead to some funny plays, some funny triggers going on, right? Because then what you could do is you can like the funniest thing I could think of is you play this card into like Kaido or something like that, and they don't have Onigashima. Some Kaido players, they will aggressively take life to kind of find that Onigashima. Some people are even running like Kurozumi Orochi just to see how many are in the life pool. And I mean, you play this card, maybe it's the top card of their life, and then you just bottom deck it, or you just bottom life it, and they won't draw into it until the end stages of the game where Onigashima is not going to matter, right? They're going to want some useful 1k, 2k counter. And there's just a lot of interesting plays that you can do with this card. It just adds another like layer of depth to the game that isn't there yet, right? it's not just the cards on the field and in your hand that they have to worry about. Now you have to worry about what are they putting, like what are they bottom decking on my triggers, what triggers do they have that, you know, they put back, and just everything like that. So it's such a cool mechanic, and I think this card is definitely going to be a 4 of just for the 2k counter, but she has really useful kind of applications for other ways to play. Alright, so for our 3-drops we got the Baddie Brulee. She's a 3-drop 1k blocker. Would trigger play this card. If this card looks familiar, that's because it is. It's pretty much a carbon copy of Boa Hancock from the structure deck, with the exact same effect. So this is nothing new that we're seeing, but the only caveat with this is you can more reliably get that effect off, right? Because you're going to be manipulating your life. You can, if she's in your hand, you could put her into the life pool with Big Mom. I think there's more than one way to put her back into the life. We're going to see the stage later also can do it. But in my opinion, I just don't know if that's going to be worth it. I mean, a free chump blocker isn't really... I mean, it's not really that strong. I don't know if we get a 1-drop chump blocker, because there's not one in the structure deck. But so maybe it's going to be worth it after all playing her. But I mean, the set that she's out in, we have cards like Vista and everything like that. So, like, she might not even get value, right? So, overall, I just don't know if she's going to see a lot of play, especially with cards like Vista coming out in OP2. But it's definitely going to be interesting. You know, a surprise blocker is definitely really funny. But yeah, I don't know. Continuing on with 3-drops, we got Montour. He's a 3-drop 4k with a 1k counter. And his effect is, once during your main phase, you can rest this character. And then you're going to take the top or bottom card of your life and add it to your hand, and then you can KO up to one of your opponent's characters that cost 3 or less. Overall, I really don't... I mean, there are a lot of ways that you could kind of get life back, but taking a life to pop something that's... to KO something that's 3 or less doesn't seem too worth it to me, especially the set this comes out in, where, like, you know, OP2 Zoro is just kind of always putting stuff out that's 3 or less, and you're going to be on the back foot a lot, taking a lot of life. But I could see a world where this sees play. He has the trigger that you can trash one card from your hand and then play this card, which can be pretty useful, maybe. But it's just the fact that you have to take that extra life that really is putting me off with this card. Even if you get him off of, like, trigger, right, he's not going to work like Who's Who or Killer, where, like, you'll get hit with a Rush Zoro and then you'll knock it out for free, right? You still have to take a life and discard a card to play him. So I don't know if he's going to be worth it in the long run. But we'll see as the game goes on. You're going to see later on, even in this deck, there's ways to heal and add more cards to your life pool. So he might be worth it in the end, but only time will tell, right? It's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of hard right now to decide that. But in my opinion, I don't think he's going to see that much play, just because there are other ways to kind of deal with 3-drops in the game, and it's really costly to take a life to do that. Some more 3-drops. This deck actually has like a pretty hefty 3-drop line. We have 3-cost Zeus. His effect is just during your main phase, you can rest this card up to one of your Charlotte Lindlin cards gains banished during this turn. And then of course he has the trigger play this card. This is such a cool effect in my opinion, because I mean, just having something that gives your leader extra effects, because I think right now the only thing that we really have that works off the leader is like giving it more power, or, you know, like with Kinemon, he does something extra if your leader is like Kazuki Odin, right? But with this, you're actually giving your leader additional card effects, which I think is super cool. And Banish is really useful in this deck. I think this is going to see a lot of play because, I mean, just like how you could kind of manipulate your opponent's life to put useful cards at the bottom of your life, You could also kind of put useful cards at the top if you think you can get rid of them with like something like Banish, right? And Banish just means that like when you land a hit with your leader, you're going to trash that card instead of them adding it to their life, and it doesn't even get a trigger effect off of that. So that's just really cool, right? So there's a lot of interesting depths of play where like if, you know, maybe you do want to just bottom life something, a useful trigger, or maybe you want to kind of, maybe you want to leave it at the top of their life there so that when you trash it, they just won't have that card at all throughout the game. So there's like a lot of depth that comes with this card, and it's just like you know, there's a lot of the banish and double attack effects right now. They are kind of pretty honest, like they're on the field. None of them have like rush or anything like that, so you could kind of prepare after they play it to kind of deal with an effect like that, whether that be blockers, counters, you know, getting rid of it. But the leader is a card that you cannot get rid of. It is always relevant throughout every stage of the game. And just having a card like this to suddenly give your leader a strong effect like Banish is pretty significant, because your opponent, you know, it's something that they have to be like thinking about in the back of their mind at all times. So just a really cool card, and I hope this sees a lot of play. I mean, you can put it into your life pool with just about any card effect. And of course, you know, you can't have a Big Mom deck with Zeus in it without Prometheus. So Prometheus is going to have the exact same effects as Zeus does, except that instead of Banish, your Charlotte Lindlin character or leader is going to get double attack. And you see, this is where it gets just really funny, right? Because, you know, having a card like Yamato is really interesting, because, you know, she has double attack Banish. It just gives you a major tempo swing. But this time, this is on your leader. You could play these cards from hand. So your opponent, you know, has to really play carefully, because if they're not playing carefully or with these cards in mind, they could lose the game just because, like, maybe they counter out the wrong way. Maybe they use too many counters or too many blockers with your characters, right? So then all of a sudden you could turn your Charlotte Lindlin into a double attack Banish character, right? And that is just super strong. He's gonna get all the benefits that Zeus does. So I think he's gonna be very playable. I think Zeus is a little bit better in my opinion. I think Banish in this kind of deck archetype is overall a little bit better, just because, you know, the whole thing is about like life manipulation and everything. So you could just like manipulate it so that you banish like really good cards. But overall, I think both of these cards are super interesting, and it's definitely worth trying out. They're going to be really strong off trigger and everything. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about these, because I personally love that these cards exist. Alright, moving on to our 4-drops, we have Charlotte Daifuku. This card is really cool. So he's just a 4-cost 5k with 1k counter, and his effect is when he's attacking, if he has a Dawn under him, you could take the top or bottom card of your life area, place it into your hand, and then put one card from the top of your deck to replace it. This is really cool because he combos well into cards that look into your own life pool, like Charlotte Pudding. So like, let's say you look at the top card of your life with Pudding and you don't like it, it's not a trigger card, so you put it at the bottom of your life. What you could then do is with Daifuku is you could swing with him with one Dawn under him and then take that no trigger card into your hand, where it'll be much more useful, right? And then hopefully there's a card on top of your deck that'll be more useful in your life area, like a trigger. So it's just a really cool way to, again, like manipulate and cycle throughout your life, get your triggers, and make sure that every kind of life and every hit counts. He could also be very interesting if there's ever like a blue and yellow dual color leader, because you know, blue has access to effects with Perona and Dofi, where you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and rearrange them in any order. So what you could do is, like, you know, in the yellow deck right now, like, you're gonna kind of have to take a gamble on whether the top card of your deck is a trigger or not. But you know, if there's a blue and yellow dual color leader, you don't have to. You're gonna know what the top card of your deck is if you use one of those effects. So I just think it's really cool. This card has a lot of potential. I think it's going to see play just because of the life manipulation, but let me know what you guys think about it. Speaking of cards that are going to work really well, Daifuku is 4-drop Katakuri. So he's a 4-cost 6k with no counter, and he's going to share the same effect that Charlotte Pudding does. So on play, you get to look at one card from the top of either your or your opponent's life and return it to the top or bottom of the life area. And this is really cool because, again, you're going to get all the life manipulation. You can mess with your opponent's life, but he gets a second effect on top of that. So after you do that, if you have less life than your opponent, this character gains rush. So this is really, really cool because he works kind of both ways with how your deck wants to play. You're going to be able to kind of disrupt your opponent's life or manipulate your own life in a way that it is more advantageous to you, but he's also going to gain rush on top of that. I think, in my opinion, with this deck, there's a lot of ways to take life. I mean, you saw with like Doer, you could take life with leader skill, so I think it's going to be pretty common for you to have less life than your opponent. And Katakuri is going to be a way to kind of like equalize the playing field and just kind of let you keep up with the amount of life that you're potentially losing, so that like later on in the game you could play the effects where you get more life into your life pool and everything like that. I think he's definitely going to be one of the more playable SRs that come from this structure deck. But let me know what you guys think about it. Katakuri is one of my favorite characters, so I'm definitely going to be playing this, and the art is just beautiful, so I'm just really happy that these cards are out. Moving on to our 5-drops, we have Charlotte Snack, and he's going to be a 5-drop 6k with no counter, with the effect, when he's attacking, if he has a Dawn under him, you can add the top or bottom card from your life area to your hand, and then this character gains Banish and 1000 power for this battle. This makes him pretty much a 5-drop 8k, if you think about it, because he's going to power himself up and you're going to put a Dawn under him for his effect. I think his effect is super strong. They're going to have to answer this, right? Either with blockers, counters, or removal. And I think he just plays more into the kind of line of thinking where maybe you do want to put that, useful card on top of their deck so that you can banish it, right? And I think this deck is going to be super interesting with how many cards can get banished within the turn. Even with Zeus, it's not a once per turn effect. If you have multiple Zeus out, multiple Charlotte Lindlin could, get banished. So it's pretty interesting seeing how many cards have this effect. I wonder, you're gonna get punished obviously if the banish doesn't go through, and a lot of play is going to kind of boil down to decision making in your opponent's life. But I just think it's a super interesting card. I definitely think it's worth trying out and playing. He's such a threat on board, and you could do the same thing with that you do with Daifuku, where if that the top or bottom card isn't the most useful trigger, you can use his effect to add it back to your hand. So there's going to be a lot of balancing your life pool with Big Mom, and I just think it's going to add a layer to the game that is super interesting for the Big Mom players. Moving on to our other SR from the deck, the SRs in this deck are so fun. They are some of my favorite cards that I've seen, but we have 7-drop Charlotte Lindlin. She's going to be a 7-cost 8k with no counter, and she has a really, really cool effect. It's just on play, your opponent is going to choose what effect she does from 2 effects, and the first one is going to be trash a life card from the top of your opponent's life area. So what this means is it's going to act like a burn from Kaido leader, where they're going to take 1 damage, but it's not going to be put into their hand, and it's also not going to get a trigger effect. So this is really cool because you could kind of, again, you could plan around it so that that top card is a very useful card for them, right? Or maybe it's a trigger that you don't want them activating. So that's really cool. But Also, they can choose to put one card from the top of your deck on the top of your life area. So what this means is when you play her, she's either burning your opponent or healing your own life, which is something that I was talking about earlier, where you know, you could kind of take life early on in the game because of effects like Doer, and we saw Snack last time. And then this is sort of a way that you're gonna gain back tempo in a way where your opponent has to choose. And I love these cards, man. I love the flavor and how like kind of accurate they are to the lore. This is basically Stay or Life, right? One of her moves, so it's just awesome. And this card is going to be super interesting. She also, because she's a Charlotte Lindlin character, she works off of Zeus and Prometheus, so she could be a 7-drop 8k with double attack, with banish, or with double attack and banish, right? So that is just an awesome effect for her, and this card is going to give people a lot of trouble in the matchup. I'm sure you're going to, and also like even into stuff like blue, where like, you know, you could bounce this back with Dofi, but like, would you even want to, right? Because if you bounce this back with Dofi, you're either eating a life or you're giving your opponent another card in their life pool. So there's just a lot of interesting plays that can happen with this card. And obviously, I think this card is going to see a lot of play. It's going to let you kind of transition into a more control-y late game, as opposed to you're kind of taking life and aggressive early game, right? But let me know what you guys think. Moving on to our non-character cards, we're going to start it off with a 5-cost event, Soul Pocus. This is, again, Stay or Life in the manga. It's awesome. And this effect is pretty much going to be the same thing as 7-drop Lindlin. It's during your main phase, your opponent chooses one of the effects below. Your opponent trashes the top card of their life, or they place a life from the top of your deck into your life area. So it's going to either heal or deal damage. This might not seem very good, especially since you don't have a body attached to it, like with Charlotte Lindlin. Where this gets really crazy, though, is when you look at its trigger effect, and it just says activate this card's main effect. So this is going to be one of your go-to cards to use with your leader ability, because what is going to end up happening is, like, if you put this card into your life pool with your leader ability, is when you get hit, you are either going to burn your opponent for free, or you are just going to replace the hit or the life that you took with some other card from the top of your deck, right? And that is so busted. Like, it's basically saying, like, one of your opponent's hits don't matter, or they have to take life to swing into you, which is so good. I mean, this card is going to be insane, I think. I think it's definitely a 4 of, just because you like having it. Like, with cards like this, right, I think we have, like, Lead Performer Disaster, where it has, like, a really good effect. Disaster is just, like, a 4-cost event that draws you a card and also lets you ramp 1 Dawn. But and it has the same trigger effect, where you use the main effect on trigger, but you can't control whether that's in your trigger, right? But the whole great thing about yellow is that you have almost full control over what's in your life. So cards like this are just, like, so polarized. They're not that polarizing anymore, because you don't mind that it's in your hand, right? Because you could always just put it into your life with your leader skill. But you also don't mind if it's not in your hand. You'd actually prefer it not to be, because you could just get this busted effect for free. So yeah, I think this card is like an instant 4 of into yellow if you're playing it. It's just way too good, and it plays into, like, all of your good cards pretty much into this deck. Cards like this are pretty crazy to me. Moving on to our other event that we're getting in this structure deck, Power Mochi. This is gonna work like just about any of your 1-cost counter events. It's gonna give you plus 2k power for the battle, but it's also gonna let you look at the top card of either you or your opponent's life, and, you know, return it to the top or bottom of the deck. So it's gonna share the same effect that Pudding and Katakuri do. So you could kind of combo into all of your other effects, which is really cool. And then also it has the trigger effect, draw one card, and then look at the top card of your opponent's or your life area and then place it to the top or bottom. So this is just like a really simple, a really good card. I could definitely see this being played. I mean, one cost events right now are pretty useful because they're that great 2k counter, and then this effect, in my opinion, is good enough to run because it's just gonna let you have so much access to shape your opponent's life and shape your own life, you know. So I think it's a pretty interesting card. The trigger is really good. It can net you a card, but yeah, there's also like other events coming out in the set that we've seen, like Buzzcut Mochi, that look pretty cool. But in my opinion, yes, this card I feel like is going to see some play when the structure deck comes out. It's just a really solid card. Moving on to the last card we're going to talk about, and it's Queen Mama Chanter. Of course, this is Big Mom's ship. I love the art for this. It's just going to be a 2-cost stage. Activate main, rest this stage. You may add one card from the top or bottom of your life area to your hand, and then place up to one of your characters that cost 3 or less on top of the owner's life area face up. So this is really cool because you could add, you know, cards like Doer and your homies, you know, Zeus and Prometheus, to your life area. You could also use this the same way you would, you know, Daifuku, where you're kind of cycling out your life so that you have cards that have no trigger in your hand, and cards that do have good trigger effects like Zeus and Prometheus into your life area. It also just has the trigger play this card. I don't know if that's super worth it, to be honest. I mean, it's just a 2-cost stage. It's not like it could be removed or anything like that, so I don't know if you're going to necessarily want to activate that trigger effect, but nonetheless, I think it's pretty fun. I think it's worth it to run like 1 or 2. I definitely don't think it's going to be like a 4 of or anything, because I mean, the cards that you can add to the top of your deck or the top of your life area are more limited than with the other effects, like your leader skill. So right now, like it looks like it's really only going to be for your homies, and even then it is kind of a little bit worse because they're added face up, so that means your opponent knows exactly what you added into your life area, and they're gonna know. That kind of telegraphs your Zeus or your Prometheus play, because, you know, they're gonna see that they're gonna see what card that you put on top, so they're gonna be able to plan around the banish or plan around the double attack. If you're playing like the mirror into yellow, like they could put, you know, that card at the bottom of your life area. So you know, there's just gonna be really cool interactions, cool plays, but overall I don't think this card is gonna see like a 4 of play like Onigashima or anything. I think it's gonna be a cool card to run at like 1 or 2. Alright, thanks for watching, everyone. That's going to conclude the video on the Big Mom structure deck. Let us know what you guys think about these cards. Personally, for me, I'm definitely going to be picking up 2 and running this. It looks like a blast to play, to be honest. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you guys like this content. We have deck profiles, gameplay coming. We have so much more to give you guys in terms of content. And shout out to Chaz for subbing to our channel. We are big fans if you're watching this. And yeah, just let us know how we're doing, guys. We're still learning and everything. And see you guys on the next one.